me introduce you to our interviewer for the second segment. A bubbly personality is the ever first one, and she has definitely managed to make a name for herself as one of the most vocal first-year students. Be it a debate, quiz, or an interview, she is your go-to person. So ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Dr. Amarasiri on stage. And now, to introduce you to the first of our next two lecturers, we have a montage that seeks to do justice to this high-spirited individual who simply cannot be boiled down to a 1-minute video. So ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the ever-vibrant and colourful Dr. Yamuna Rajapakse.
Consultant respiratory physician, interventional pulmonologist and senior lecturer in the Department of Anatomy of the Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo. Also, vocalist, songwriter and composer whose musical talents have been linked to the likes of the musical duo Bhati and Santosh, entrepreneur, karate player, self-proclaimed dizzy geek, reader, book collector, wife, mother and mentor. This multifaceted personality graduated from the Faculty of Medical Sciences, University of Sri Jagadinapura in 2003 with second-class upper division honors, numerous distinctions and gold medals in physiology, obstetrics and gynecology. Not only was she involved in introducing endobronchial ultrasound technology to the country, but was also involved in starting up its first unit and first ever multidisciplinary lung cancer team at the National Hospital of Sri Lanka. It is now time to dig deeper and look behind the title. Let us now hear the story of Dr. Yamuna Rajapakse.
And now, outgoing and young at heart, I think it's safe to say that our next lecturer has cast a spell and bewitched us all. See what I did. Now, please join me in welcoming the mother-born but magical Dr. Lakmali Amarasiri on stage.
A medical physiologist of the Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo, whose compassion and wisdom run far deeper and wider than her sphere of contribution as senior lecturer at the Department of Physiology. From magical wizarding worlds to photography, from setting up lung function units to her role as student counselor, the life of this academic, co-founder and director of bespoke gift-giving company that empowers individuals towards sustainable livelihood, wife, mother and mentor, reflects the fascinating path she has led thus far. Upon graduating from the University of California in 2000, while reading for a PhD, she went to train on allergy testing and spirometry at the Alfred Hospital in Melbourne, Australia, and thereafter in advanced lung function testing as a Commonwealth Academic Fellow at the Lung Function Unit, Royal Brompton Hospital in London, UK, and now serves as an expert and trainer in lung function testing techniques and interpretation. She is also a young physician leader of the YPL program of the Inter-Academy Medical Panel. Without further ado, let's hear from Dr. Lakmali Amarasiri.
The stage has been set and the players have arrived. Over to Dr. Yamuna to take it away. Thank you so much, Ashwini, for that amazing introduction, by the way. And yes, let's start with the interview. So as you can see here with the introductory videos, today here we have with us two very dynamic and dare I say refreshing personalities to the medical sphere. So without further ado, let us delve deeper into the story that is Dr. Lakmali Amarasiri and Dr. Yamuna Rajapakse. Thank you so much, madams, for joining us. Yes, so shall we start with you, Dr. Lakmali? Right, so my understanding is that you had rather an interesting and unusual childhood. Could you perhaps elucidate that to our audience here today, and maybe how you got involved in the Faculty of Medicine here in Colombo?
I'm the daughter of a scientist and a teacher, and they were. Switch the mics. Sorry. Switch the mics like that. Actually, we'll switch it. Okay, yeah. So to start off, my father was a scientist and my mother was a teacher, and they were very much into reading. And so I grew up in a household of books. And actually, my early childhood, I first started schooling in Manchester, in UK, when my father went to read for his PhD. And then I came back to Sri Lanka when I was about 8, and then brief stints at Museums College and at St. Paul's. I then entered into Viharamahadevi Balika Vidyalaya in Kiribati, which is a very new school at that time. And because it was new and it was small, it gave us a tremendous opportunity to do new things. Everything that we did was new. And the school actually encouraged us to do a lot of extracurricular activities. So I dabbled in a lot of creative writing, art, music, did a bit of sports. I played netball, I was in Western, and did debating, general knowledge, lots of things in school. And the one thing I did least was actually studying, but at that time I thought I would actually do something related to, I had this vision of studying languages and becoming a translator and traveling the world. And my father was the biggest support in my life, and at the age of 12 I actually did a diploma in French also, starting out there. But when I was 15, my father passed away, and my biggest supporter. And my life changed, and we had to face a lot of financial problems, and at that time there was no other avenue. Like I did my O-levels very well, and then I had to study either it had to be commerce or arts or law, or you either become an engineer or doctor. And the least resistant pathway was, I think, science. So I did that, and I got selected to medical school. And so I went in, but it wasn't my career choice, so I was not very happy about it. But I did go in, wanted to leave several times. The microphone doesn't work. And but due to some very inspirational lecturers and the support of my family and friends, I think I managed to complete my degree. And I graduated, and I actually did my internship at National Hospital of Sri Lanka. And then I rejoined Ragama as a lecturer. Right? And then I did my postgraduate in asthma and reflux disease. My PhD was on that, and so I learned a lot of gastrointestinal techniques. But what really excited me at that level, even though I said I didn't like medicine and I didn't like clinical medicine, was that I discovered lung function. And at that time, it wasn't that well established in Sri Lanka. So then I went and did a postgraduate. I got a Commonwealth Fellowship to go and study in UK again at Royal Brompton. I learned how to establish lung function units, and I came back to Sri Lanka. And at the same time, the Central Chest Clinic contacted me, and they brought all this equipment. And then we set up the first unit, the lung function unit at the Central Chest Clinic, and I started working there even though I was at Ragama. But so my life went on like that, but I became a bit, very restless, because I felt I hadn't really done what I wanted to do. So after 14 years as an academic, I resigned completely, and I stayed at home. And in that time, I think that's the time I was able to find myself and grow. So I ventured more into the field of lung function testing, and from the chest clinic, with the chance encounter of a patient, I got this idea of creating an empowerment and a creative company, of which we'll talk about later. I think Dr. Yamuna is my partner. And when I was doing all these things, suddenly my husband saw this advertisement in the newspaper, and he said, Colombo has advertised there's a vacancy in physiology, and would you like to apply? So I applied. At the same time that Dr. Nilanka did, and we both came for the interview together, not knowing who will be selected, but we both got selected. So that's how. And one of the reasons why I came at that time was because the proximity of Central Chest Clinic, and I realized that I really wanted to have a place where I could further lung function, because I think the country needs a place to set standards, establish more teaching, training centers. So that's the reason I think I came back. Yeah, so from starting off saying I don't like medicine, I think I finally found a purpose to stay in the field. We can share the mic.
Thank you, madam. That was very fascinating. And why don't we move on to you, madam? I've heard that your childhood has been a bit of everything, really. Sports, to singing, to swimming, karate, and all that. Could you perhaps elaborate on that and also explain to us how you came to be part of the Faculty of Medicine here in Colombo?
Thank you, Nina. So yeah, my story is, you'll see that it's full of conundrums in every step. I like too many things. I've noticed from a very young age, like this and like that, and I'm like into grabbing all sorts of opportunities, and then I'm stuck with, oh gosh, I'm like too many things at a time. This is even when I was like 4 years old, and in UK, if you saw, I went there with my parents. My parents are both medicine consultants. My mother is an anesthetist. My father is a physician. So they were training in the UK, and that's where you saw those winter photographs. And even then, it was like, what do I do? Where do I go? I remember, running out of school like very fast, trying to find other things to do as well. Back home, I joined, I was sent to Sirima Banda Lakmali, which was a very young school. We didn't even have the A-level classes when I joined. And it was again, just like Dr. Lakmali said, a very exciting time to be in that school. The buildings were new except for two very ancient ones. The teachers were new, and we were exposed to a lot of fun teaching methodologies. I remember doing dramas and plays and musicals like as a student in grade 4, grade 3, lots of fun. But then after scholarship, my mother was like, no, you cannot continue to stay in a school which does not have A-levels or established A-levels. So I didn't have much of a choice just to where I went. So I was sent to Devi Balika because my mother had a lot of friends from Devi Balika. And well, I'm glad I got to go there because it exposed me to an entirely different demographic. In the sense they were all so smart. And that really scared me no end. I needed a lot of adapting. I was very, I think like even you, not like Dakshita, again like Nilanka a lot, because I was very haphazard in my studies. If there's an exam, I would study, and go and do the exam. But later on that changed. But in Devi Balika, the thing was, we couldn't do that. I had to be on my toes. So I found a way by managing to listen to the teachers very well during the teaching and then forgetting about it. And then just before the exam, I would cram, and surprisingly, I don't know, I would remember. So what I always say is when you're being taught something, manage to get the maximum at that time, okay? But that's me. Again, some people need to, even when we learn about teaching methods, about the recall and how you need to read it again to bring your memory levels high and all that. So I think I didn't really do that all that much until maybe I joined medicine. But okay, back to Devi Balika, again, I got chances to do a lot of things. Again, our school is not that big on extracurriculars, and I was seen as some sort of what's wrong with her kind of person. She's doing all these things again, singing. Most of it was singing. I was an interactor for most of the time in school. Sadly, I hear that the Interact Club of our school is not existing anymore. Something about a teacher in charge problem. But so I belong to Rotaract Colombo Midtown through our club. And I was the vice president. Simply because I was deputy head prefect and I couldn't become both. But I would have loved to be Interact president rather than DHV of the school for obvious reasons. But I was in the band for 5 years. I played like several instruments. The one which really appealed to me was the trombone, mainly because again it made a big noise, and I like doing things like that, which is strange considering the fact that I was telling Noha I am a bit of an introvert. I think I'm quite a lot of an introvert, but when I'm on a stage, I'm absolutely different. I think that is the case in a lot of people who do get on stage. So school was like that, all the challenges of being like the naughtiest girl in the class. I think that happened because I had a few relations in school and I was expected to, perform or live up to expectations. Your parents are doctors, what are you doing? You're going to be the conductor and all. I used to hear that, Amma dostara, Duvapon dostara kind of stories I hear, and I'm like, why would they tell that to a little girl? But it stuck to me somehow, and I reacted by not working. But in the end, I realized that's very counterproductive. So I did work, to the surprise of all my teachers who predicted that I will never amount to much. They are still very nice to me, and I'm nice to them. But it was a surprise to a lot of people when I got selected to faculty. Again, that was by the cutoff. So obviously I couldn't come to Colombo. I went to Jayawardenapura, where surprise, I met a lot of people like me. They were all people who, did medicine, studied by the way, and did every other thing, and they had a chance to get, I don't know if Japur is still like that, but my batch was very, very mad and crazy like that. So I managed to continue my, wanting this and that and doing everything. And it's too numerous to mention, I've done so many things, but I'm like a jack of all trades, master of none, seriously, except when I, finally entered my field proper and found my niche, so to speak.
I think I disagree with a few sentences over there. I mean, none of you all are, everything was extraordinary. But from what I understand, both of your stories, there's this common sort of thread of prioritization. Both you and Lakmali madam, you all understood that perhaps, lives are obviously not straight. We would love them to be, but they're not. And I was hoping maybe you could elucidate on how you made the decisions that required to be made, and you sort of work up from there. Yamuna madam, why don't you start with you?
So coming from me who likes everything, again it was about doing what was right at the right time. So when it was an exam, I really worked hard. Like all things bad, I stopped everything else I was doing. I worked. Even if I had a function, I think that was mostly my mother, she made me work. But then it sort of, I realized, the wisdom of what she was saying, because I couldn't. I'm a person, I need a lot of things happening in my life. I'm sure there are lots of you like that. If I have all the time in the world, I don't study. But if I have 100 things going on, somehow I do all 100 of them and I study as well. But the day before the exam, sadly the 99 fell off and the study sort of, became like that. I think as fellow crammer, others people, Lakmali, you would understand this. I think it's a singing thing as well that we are quite alike. I resonate with her story a lot. So, priority-wise, so once you got to medicine, I made sure that I understood what was going on in medicine before I started doing the other things, like joining into singing things and joining in all the other sports activities or whatever. I didn't do much sports, only karate and swimming, but even then, okay, karate. I know that took up most of my time, so I couldn't do a lot of other things anyway. I'm not athletic in the sense. I'm more into strength and endurance sports, if you notice. So no, I can't run. But before that, I made sure this again, like going to Devi Balika, going to medical school, is like, oh my gosh, so many brilliant people out here. I don't know whether I can live up to this. And the lecturers knew my parents, which is a really bad, stressful activity for me. It was like, why can't you be like, this is sort of in my head now, the same thing in school is going to happen to me again here. So I had to prove myself. So I proved myself maybe in the second term. First term I crashed, so don't worry, I didn't do well. It was a very big disappointment getting negative marks for the first time and getting very low marks. But then you pick up, and I picked up, and then I joined in all the other extra stuff. But that taught me that even without the school sort of structure, and you're let loose, in faculty, you pretty much get to do what you want. If you don't prioritize, you're going to fall by the wayside. So then it was like me disciplining myself to do what was required at that particular time and leave the others to maybe another time, because that time will always come, this year, next year. In 5 years, it's always going to come.
Madam, I think you spoke to me on the first day that we met about the necessity of making the right decisions. Could you perhaps elaborate more on that? Because it still resonates with me, what you said.
So it's about the right and the wrong. I suppose you can't say exactly what is right and what is wrong. But if you take from my life, I suppose, because I had to go into a career that it wasn't what I wanted. But what I realized was that when I got there, right, if I qualified and I finished this somehow, I would then probably be able to, do what I wanted to do. So I realized at that point. So I think what we were talking about, the prioritization that you were saying. So there were many things I wanted to do when I sit down to study, but then I realized when I do something, I do it well. Because you might ask the question, why is it that if you didn't like it, how come you did so much? And that's because I prioritized and I realized this is important. And then I did that. It's a little bit what like Rajapakse said, right? You've got to bake the cake first. Right? So I did that, and then you make time for the other things as well. And the most important thing is, the right thing. What is right at that time is what makes you feel good, right? And what is good for you as well. And at a point, if it's something that is an exam you need to study, then the right thing is to study, right? And if it's like a holiday, if it's Christmas Day, you do not sit and study, right? You watch a Christmas movie, you eat something, and so it's the right thing. It's not what people tell you what is right. I think what is right for you. Right? And you must be strong enough to make that decision. And that doesn't mean that you disregard what other people say about you. Right? But you have to, it has to feel right for you. So and then you need to prioritize what is more important and when you need to do it. So our whole lives have been like that. Like when we had to study, we studied. And when we had to do the other things, we did that. And so I don't think that when you do one thing over the other that you're making a sacrifice. It's just you're just making more time for one. Right? And just setting the other one. And the next time that thing will have no time to be seen.
Thank you so much, madam. I think what's interesting is if you really analyze both of your lives, it was remarkable. You can draw parallels where I think is kind of easy to be fair. Like, both of you all are involved in the respiratory sphere and in terms of loving books and all that. So, how did you all two meet and how is it that you all became the best of pals?
Okay, I'm going to start because it starts with me. Because I told you I did started my internship at National Hospital and I chose to go to Dr. Yamuna's father as he was my consultant. He was a very popular consultant, everyone went to him. And while I was an intern, I saw this medical student there and that was the third year medical student, and we started, and I think her father actually had an annual trip for the interns and the registrars and the SRs, and Yamuna came along and you sang as well. I think that's when I first heard you singing. Yeah, but that's how we actually got to know. But very surprisingly, so she was a student. I then joined the faculty, and then as fate would have it, I decided to specialize in respiratory physiology, and she did respiratory medicine, and we both met at the Central Test Clinic many years later. And I think at one of those meetups, she told me, or she showed me photographs of her son's birthday, and she had gone to town. I think it was a cowboy thing, right? Cowboy decoration, and then I thought, oh. I met somebody like me because I had done a similar Harry Potter kind of themed for my daughter, no surprises, right? So done that, and then we kind of exchanged notes on that, and then then I left. When I left faculty and I was wandering around, and I told you I met this patient at the chest clinic who I thought we could empower through craft, and I thought I needed somebody to kind of work with me, and I remembered Yamuna. So I came to Colombo faculty. She was in anatomy at that time. I walked in and I asked her, I have this idea. I don't think I'm mad, but I have this idea and I want to, create a company which provides the perfect gift to people, and it involves us going shopping and crafting. And I think you gave me a hug. I think I can't remember. Yes, I think she was thrilled. She was thrilled, and so this partnership started. So we called it Bespoke, and Yamuna had this brilliant idea because I wanted it to be bespoke, unique, something like no other. And then she said, shall we see what it, so we entered bespoke into Google and there are like 150 million companies with bespoke. So then she had this brainwave and she said, shall we see what it is in Sinhala? Yeah, so we typed, bespoke in Sinhala and this word Navame came out and we thought, we just looked at each other just like that. We looked at each other and we thought, oh my God, that sounds so nice. So then we typed in Navame and there was nothing. So over a weekend, at the seaside, which we both love, then we went out with our families and we registered the company, we established the company, we designed a logo. Our first logo we wrote on the sand and photographed. So we call ourselves N, like the Arirate right? Like that. And and it was fun. And then we started, so the thing about Yamuna and me is, I'm going to go on. Right? So, yes. Yeah. So about Yamuna and me, as we said, so I'm the one who talks non-stop, but she's the creative genius. And when it comes to craft, it's amazing because when we think of something, we just look at it and we both think the same things and we start talking at the same time. So it's really uncanny. And sometimes it's crazy. And the best part is it's not just the craft part, but the fact that she's a respiratory physician and I'm a respiratory physiologist. And we manage patients together. Right, so she refers her patients to me, I test them, tell her what to do, and she then treats the patient. So we have that going on as well. And we've even done research articles. It's the same field, so we do research articles together as well. So it's been an amazing thing. And I think, I don't know whether you heard of soulmates. And that where they say the universe, there's this person and you're torn into two and flung into different corners of the earth. And they find their way back. And I think, I think I found my soulmate.
I couldn't have put it any better way, madam, because I can attest to this. I would go into the office, one of them, and then all of a sudden there'd be a silence, and both of them are looking at each other, and I can see the telepathic conversation happening, and it's going right over my head, So that was quite an experience there. I would love to pick both your brains for more, but due to time constraints, I just have one question. In hindsight, I know this is insights to inspire. So in hindsight, is there anything you would like to tell yourself, just maybe getting into faculty, is there anything you've learned, anything you'd tell your younger self?
So I'll talk.
Yes.
No, so yes, so the thing is, my younger self spent a lot of time making decisions then and there. I want to do this, I want to do this. But I want to tell her, don't make strict decisions as you go because life changes in the most bizarre way you do not understand. So I realize I didn't answer your question about how I ended up here. So quickly run through that. I wanted to be a surgeon. Yes. I wanted to be a surgeon. I did not want to be an anesthetist like my mother, nor a physician like my father. I wanted something totally different where I would be me and not, someone related to them. Not because I didn't love them or was inspired by them, but because I wanted to be my own thing. But then as life would have it, going into faculty meeting my husband and my boyfriend, I realized that his passion for surgery was far greater. And if the two of us were to do surgery, it would be a bit of a clash and we would not have time for our family. And for me, that was bad because, again, my parents were consultants going everywhere around the country. And I was at home with my aunts. I have 7 aunts, so there was a lot of aunts to be with. But still, it was a bit different. It was not my parents, and I felt that loneliness more than I should have, I suppose. So I thought, no, I'm not going to do that to my kids. In fact, I had them rather younger, both of us had kids quite younger than, like my batchmates are the oldest kids out of my friends. So I thought, no, I'm not doing surgery, let my husband do surgery. But again, I was not one of those sit and see 100 patients a day kind of physician. So I thought I'm going to do something with my hands. If it's not surgery, so I wanted to do a GI medicine. Again, because of the kids, I'm not blaming them. This is how life changes. For the first time in my life, I failed an exam. I was pregnant. I attempted a part 1, didn't get through. And it was Kavin who actually pushed me, no, go, don't stop here, go and do whatever you're going to regret this. So did it again, did it a third time, passed, went for registrar on a third try. I was in Peradeniya, very far away, literally not as far as you are, I know. I mean, but for me, I had grown up at home. Even with my aunts, it was my home. Now this is away from home. With a kid, here one kid, I was pregnant, and it was a very difficult time for me. And now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, can I complete this? Did part 2 once, failed. Again, my aim was to come back to Colombo. I'm not doing exams in Peradeniya. So second try, did it from Colombo, and I passed. And then I couldn't, because it was the second try, the GI spot went off. And I thought, okay, so instant decision. I had to decide what I was going to do at that point. You know, you can't think, you can't call people. Then I just thought, okay, my trainer who I went as a registrar was Dr. Amarasiri. I'm going to him. I'm going to take his spot. People are like, no, don't go to chest clinic. It doesn't have wards. You have to work in wards. Just a clinic, no, I'm going, and I went. And because of them, because of the chest clinic, one thing, I met this lovely lady here. And the other thing was, it gave me my best training opportunity ever in Australia, and the best interventional pulmonology. If you don't know what that is interventions into the lung tubes, basically. So that is what I do, that is what I'm trained for. And nobody here did that before I did. So I started that here. And that is what the surgeon at 20 years old decided to do something completely different. So I would tell them that, you know, don't make strict plans or strict agendas. Life will change, and you take the best pathway you can find. That's all, right?
And Noha said you're going to ask me that question. And what I wanted to say to my old self is that if I could, is that I wish I would have told her not to think too far ahead to the future, but to enjoy the journey, because I entered not liking medicine, so I always thought of the end, like what my bleak future would look like as a doctor. And as a result, I didn't enjoy. I was most often frustrated and anxious, and I didn't really enjoy the journey. So if I could turn back and tell, I would say not to do that. And what I'd like to tell students as well is that don't think ahead to what's going to come, because the future is so unpredictable. Look at me, where I started, where I ended up. Right? I didn't like, and now where am I? So like that, but enjoy the process and do what you have to do at that moment, and it will get you there. Right? And you don't know what the future holds. Right? But just, that's what I would like to tell myself. So I regret so much. So I hope you all won't need to regret that. So you have heard from us. So just do your thing. What you have to do now.
Wise words. Thank you so much, madams, for joining us today. I think we all learned a great deal, and yes, it's a lot to digest as well. So I've heard, madam, that you are a composer of many a song. Don't worry, I shall not be accompanying you. I can barely do the C major scale. But yes, will you please give us a hint, if it were possible, of your abilities or the mind? Okay. Please.
I'm sorry, I cannot play like Amirdan, but I will try. So this is a song I've been composing since I was like 10, and it gave me validation when I became a copyright songwriter after the Masante, which you saw in there. And I composed like 5 songs for that as well, and also the Sri Lanka cricket anthem. I don't know whether you heard that, and for instance. So this is from that very first album, Vasante. So you like it? Sorry.
safe conclusion that we have very multifaceted, dynamic, and musically talented lecturers here in Colombo. Really, I'm not lecture material then. But yes, fun fact, the marks actually were designed by Dr. Yamuna herself. So, in case you guys want to... And... Sorry? Biomark, yes, biomark. Yes. Thank you for listening to us, and we hope you were insightful and inspiring at the same time. Ashwini, over to you. Thank you, Maha, and what a beautiful close to an exhilarating evening. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of the entire audience when I say that the interview was nothing short of inspirational and eye-opening. And relatable, I have to say, of course. Thoroughly enjoyable. Thank you so much, madam, for being with us.